Today, we're talking about how to protect your energy field. Learning how to protect your energy becomes non negotiable in the moment you realize you are energy, moving through a world full of competing frequencies, distractions, and people living out patterns that are not yours to carry. We ourselves carry patterns and habits that we might want to upgrade or transmute. Today, I want to share with you what I have learned across nearly 2 decades of training, practice, and lived experience about keeping your field intact, clearing the contracts that keep you stuck, and feeling the difference between an open, vulnerable field and one that is truly protected. Before anything else, I want to say this clearly because it really matters. We are all in this together. There is no one who is permanently vibrating high, who never dips, who never plays a role in a dynamic they would rather not be in. Awakening is not a destination per se, it's a continuous practicing of noticing, adjusting, clearing, grounding, and returning to yourself. The people around us who seem to be vibrating lower are not our enemies. Some are simply asleep, some are our teachers, some are carrying burdens we cannot see. Compassion for them and for ourselves in times where we might vibrate low does not mean keeping our field open to others. We can hold both. I want to establish something clearly before we go any further because this topic still gets dismissed as a spiritual fantasy. The human biofield is real, measurable, and scientifically documented. The HeartMath Institute has shown that the heart generates a magnetic field more than 100 times stronger than the brain, and it can be detected up to 3 feet away from the body in all directions. The National Institutes of Health has funded biofield research. Researcher Beverly Rubik has published peer-reviewed papers documenting the biofield as a complex, self-organizing energy system. I have also been trained in two systems that work directly with this field: quantum reflex analysis, which I studied with Dr. Bob Marshall in Santa Monica, and autonomic response testing through Dr. Klinghart's training. The body does not lie, and neither does the energy field. Here's the reality of being an energy being living in a modern world. We are constantly in proximity to other fields, other people's stress, unresolved trauma, unconscious anger, and karmic patterns do not stay neatly contained inside their bodies or our own. They radiate outward, and if your field is open, unguarded, or already depleted, you absorb what is around you. This is not the other person's fault necessarily. Most people are not consciously throwing arrows. They're simply living out their karma, running old programs, processing unresolved pain. But an open, sensitive field picks it up regardless of intent. Those of us who are more attuned to energy often feel this most acutely, and on the days when our own frequency is lower, we are even more susceptible. One piece that almost never gets discussed in conversations about energy protection is the role of soul contracts. If you find yourself in a repeating dynamic with a specific person, the same argument, the same wound, the same pattern cycling again and again, it is worth asking whether you have a soul contract with that person. In many spiritual traditions, souls agree before incarnation to play certain roles for each other, to trigger specific lessons, to mirror back what needs to be healed. And some people use each other for their awakening, and give away our power by consenting to that. The difficult person in your life may be fulfilling a role you agreed to at a level beyond your conscious awareness. This does not mean what they're doing is acceptable, but if you only focus on what they're doing wrong, you will miss your own part in the loop. So it's best to own it, see the contract, and then clear it. This is a practice I recommend doing in nature if at all possible. The earth helps receive and metabolize what you are releasing. Find a quiet place outside, sit or stand, and take a few slow, deep breaths. First, call the person to mind and acknowledge the pattern between you. You do not need to understand all of its layers. Simply acknowledge that it exists. Second, you can own your part, and without blaming yourself, acknowledge that some part of you has been participating in this dynamic. Third, you can declare the contract complete. Say something like, "This contract has served its purpose. I have received what I came to learn. I release this agreement now with love and without resentment. We are both free." Fourth, invoke your highest timeline. Ask to be aligned with your truest self and your highest expression. Feel that as real. Fifth, return to your body. Breathe. Look around you. Ground into the earth. You just changed something. Around 2012, I spent some time as an apprentice with Maggie Walls, a shaman elder in the Ozark Mountains. I was on her land, sleeping outdoors, open to whatever wanted to come through. One night I heard music, a band playing, clear and close. When I mentioned it the next morning, Maggie said, "We have no neighbors." What I had heard was coming from another realm. The doorway was open and I could perceive it. That experience was the beginning of understanding in a very real and visceral way that we exist in a much larger field of energy and information than the five senses reveal. And it was Shaman Elder Maggie who first taught me the bubble of protection, not as a concept, but as a practice, a felt practice. You actually feel the difference between being open and being enclosed in your field. This is a skill and it develops with practice. Some are resonating with the practice of working with a violet flame and the purple cloak that Saint Germain is depicted wearing. I lived in Mount Shasta for over a decade in that area, and there's the I Am Center there, and a lot of people are big into Saint Germain there. The violet flame operates at the highest frequency of the visible light spectrum, right at the border of ultraviolet. It is understood in the Ascended Master teachings as a transmuting fire that transforms dense energy, karmic residue, and emotional pattern into something lighter and more refined. The purple cloak represents a deliberately cultivated auric field, coherent, intact, and sovereign in the presence of lower frequencies. When I put on the purple cloak through prayer and intention, I feel a real shift in the quality of my field. That is the practice, not just the words, but the felt sense. Here's the prayer itself. Say it slowly, feel each line as real, not as a wish, but as a declaration of what already is. I am the violet flame in action, in me now. This is embodiment. The protection is already active. I am the violet flame, to light alone I bow. This is sovereignty. Nothing of lower frequency has authority over this field. I am the violet flame in mighty cosmic power. This connects the personal to the universal current. I am the light of God, shining every hour. This is continuity, not just in meditation, but as a constant state. I am the violet flame blazing like the sun. This is radiance outward. And finally, I am God's sacred power, freeing everyone. This last line may feel like a big claim. The intention is not superiority. It is the understanding that when you hold a clear, protected, high frequency field, your presence genuinely affects the space and time around you. Your field, when intact, is a gift to everyone you orbit. Not every protection practice happens in ceremony. Sometimes you're in a checkout line next to someone radiating chaos. Sometimes you are in a meeting with someone who consistently leaves you drained. You cannot always close your eyes and pray. So here are your in the moment tools. Turn your body slightly sideways. When you face someone directly, your chakras are in full frontal alignment with their field. A slight angle change, it changes that exposure significantly without anyone really noticing. Raise your palm internally. You can do this as a visualized gesture, even when you cannot do it physically. And it works. But when you can put it up physically, that's also a great idea. Invoke the cloak silently in any moment. And when you do need to speak a boundary, keep it about you, not them. Not, you always do this, but I will not be treated this way. The energy of those two statements is completely different, and so is the response that they invite. The protection practice is not about keeping the world out. It is about staying in your own field so you can actually show up as yourself in the world. Every time you leave your house, this is your practice. Put the coat on, say the prayer, feel the shift. Notice the difference between an open field and a protected one. That felt sense, that subtle but real change in the quality of your energy is the skill you are developing. And over time, it becomes second nature. We do have to take responsibility for our own selves and our own stuff going on, first and foremost. But this post and this video was all about protecting your field from the outside. You can find the full article, the Violet Flame Prayer widget with line by line explanations and the complete contract clearing practice at dotusalpha.com/how to protect your energy. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next presentation.